on Ground Crew Command Radio. We have the latest from Ben Fulford. Khazarian Satanists fatally expose themselves by turning Trump into a zombie slave. We're going to really get into the implications about Trump being apparently successfully bribed by the cabal. We're going to get into the worldwide mass meditation that took place Monday night or Tuesday morning, wherever you are in the world. That was a huge event, and many others, light workers, also did big all-out clearing sessions timed with that mass meditation to get us as far ahead and close to the event as possible. We've got Cobra that's upgraded again from red alert to black alert, which basically means a darkness attack, specifically on key light workers. We're going to get into all of that, and of course, certain things you really need to know about DNA activation. What's the truth about it? The certain fundamentals that you need to get right before even getting into that, and we're going to cover it so that you'll walk away knowing what the deal is with DNA activation and make it all far more possible for you and far more real. This is the Unknown Light Warrior. Okay, where do we begin? The intense energies continue unabated, no doubt. So, welcome to tonight's show. A lot to cover. Now, the interesting thing about this week's show is because of the red alerts and black alerts, which basically means psychic attacks, non-physical attacks, which included attacks on yours truly. And if you're a light worker, you know exactly what I mean. You've probably got attacked as well as the enormous amount of work and organizing that we've had to do in organizing the worldwide mass meditation to coincide with the new full moon Monday night. I believe it was 10 past 2 Eastern Daylight Time in the US, and in the morning hours and afternoon hours everywhere else in the world. So much work was involved in that, so many attacks were involved with that we literally couldn't organize a guest for tonight's show. That's how intense, how busy, how full on it is, because when these sorts of things happen, when attacks happen, it takes time off because we have to deal with it. We have to clear them. And so we do have a great guest scheduled for next Wednesday's show, but not tonight. Tonight there's so much to get into with the geopolitical chaos on Ground Crew Command and really critical events. It appears, what Ben calls the Khazarian Mafia, what we generally call the cabal. It appears they've successfully bribed Donald Trump. So now we're in a possibility, at least in the very near term or short term future, that we're going to have a similar situation as we had under the Obama presidency, where the US president is once again working for the cabal / bloodlines. And it's a constant tug of war, tit for tat battle, one stopping the other from going too far kind of situation. Under Obama's presidency, we had the white hats in the military and agencies constantly stopping World War III through this and that maneuver. And the good news in that area is a lot of their intel they do get from what they call topside, and that is our galactic family, the Galactic Confederation. They very easily detect and know exactly where every nuclear bomb is, for example. And if the white hats on the ground here don't know, well, they do know pretty quickly if it becomes an issue. You know, we've got Cobra as a resistance movement, you know, although it operates from underground, effectively making it a subterranean positive group. It's essentially an off-world group, part of the ET Confederation that is working with us on the surface here, neutralizing negative off-world influences, and that includes the Chimera. And by the way, if you don't know about the Chimera group yet, go to Cobra's blog and just type into the search box Chimera, because it's very important that you do know about those guys. What do we go here? 2012portal.blogspot.com is Cobra's website. 2012portal.blogspot.com. I do you a little bit of homework on the Chimera if you haven't, or if you don't know about them. They're arguably running the show, basically. The only reason why the cabal, and that includes all the way to the top, meaning the 13 bloodlines, and the so-called Grey Pope, which I only found out about recently. The only reason why they're still standing is because of the Chimera and the weapons that they have at their disposal, which is dwindling in numbers. Their weapons primarily consist of what are known as plasma toplet bombs. They exist on the plasma plane, and they're basically antimatter bombs. That's in a nutshell what they are, utilizing top quark or heavy quark, and that's quantum physics stuff that even I'm certainly not an expert on. So they're still around. The cabal's still around because of those guys. And once the Cobra has been doing a great job about publicizing the fact that the plasma toplet bombs is literally it. I mean, that's literally all there is in terms of what's standing between us, humanity, and freedom, planetary liberation. So keep that one in mind. And I'm stressing this point because many people aren't aware about even the Chimera group themselves, let alone the fact that, you know, their control over the plasma toplet bombs is the only thing that's holding up the physical cabal. You know, the physical cabal, as you know, they've tried and tried again to start World War III. They've tried to do nuclear bomb false flags, and they keep on being stopped by mostly by the white hats, by the Earth Alliance on the ground here. And what I mean by mostly is because they do get intel and tactical support from the off-world groups, whether they're above our heads or underneath our feet. You know, it's all a team effort. That's Planetary Liberation for you. It's a team effort. We have to do our part. They're doing their part to bring about the event so much more closer. Now, good old Ben, with his latest post starts off with the seeming successful bribery of Donald Trump. Apparently, they have a video of him murdering a 12-year-old girl named Mary, according to Pentagon and CIA sources. And before you go off, jump into conclusions on that one, you got to remember all this reminds me of a great story that Rob Potter, my good friend Rob Potter, has told me quite some time ago. And good old Rob has been at this for 30, 40 years. A very typical thing that the cabal does is any up-and-comers, anyone rising in their field, whatever industry, not just in politics, they invite them to parties, for example. They try to seduce them with the most physically beautiful prostitutes, basically. I was about to use models and sugarcoat it, but it's prostitution. They drug their drinks or get them a bit drunk or that kind of thing. Act real friendly to them, real supportive, even before such get-togethers. Really supportive, really feign, pretending to love what a given man or woman is doing in their field and so forth. And they get together and they do those things, often at a party, typically. They seduce them in various ways, get them a bit drunk and so forth. And next thing they know, they wake up 7 a.m. in the morning, blood everywhere, a knife in their hand, and with whatever model or prostitute lying next to them with her throat slashed. And that kind of thing, that's been one of their MOs, one of the cabal's MOs, about figuring out how to gain control over an individual, a very smart, bright individual who's rising through the ranks, whether it's in politics, military, industry, sciences, what have you. They don't just immediately, try to threaten them with whatever. If they can find dirt on them, then they don't bother going through that process. But this is the kind of thing we all have to be aware of goes on, and to know that this is what we're dealing with. Now, InfoWars, for now at least, it's maintaining its support for Trump himself, what they're focusing on and exposing, and rightly so, is his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who's now a confirmed Satanist, part of the Luciferian network of the elites, and they're really sort of going after him, basically, and good on them for doing that. And so, although Trump may be compromised, and we all might be a little disheartened by that, don't worry too much about it. It's there's always these backroom strategies and countermeasures being taken. It's still too early to get too disheartened or upset about it. One of the headlines on InfoWars is Trump not going into Syria. Okay. So God, there we're just judging by that headline alone, we're dealing with a situation where the White Hats have once again stepped in, along with the Tsarist network of in Russia and so forth, that are stepping in and saying, forget about World War III, buddy, with Syria. It's just not going to happen, which Ben was quite explicit about as well. And now we got another headline on InfoWars titled Trump's Masterful Diplomacy Gains China's Support. So we have which, as far as that headline is concerned, is an indicator that the dragons who mostly control China, that certainly don't completely control it, but mostly control China, are sort of trying to do away, combining their efforts with the Pentagon, White Hats, in trying to get rid of one of the most stereotypical cabal puppets, which is the North Korean regime. In case that's new to you, North Korea works for the cabal, always had. It's always, as you know, the cabal always needs a boogeyman out there to threaten the world with, and as an excuse to undermine our liberties, among lots of other things. So that's what appears to be happening there. We have to wait and see. But there are indicators there of a strategy between the various white hat factions on the surface, namely the Pentagon in this case, and the Chinese dragons cornering North Korea to kick off that regime and end it once and for all. Now, if that happens successfully, then the cabal will have lost another big excuse for World War III, another big excuse to threaten Japan with, another big excuse to hold the whole world to ransom with the spectre of either a major conventional or nuclear confrontation. So stay tuned on that one. We'll see what happens by next Wednesday. We've got the other big news from Cobra. Now, I will briefly go over the big energetic event, which was the worldwide mass meditation that we were a part of. Took a lot of work to organize that. It was on short notice, but we quickly scrambled to put out the articles, do the videos in all the languages. And this is not me doing this. This is other people. They deserve all the honors and credit here. They had to scramble to do all the videos in quite a few languages, and they covered quite a few languages. I was quite impressed the work that they did in such a short amount of time. And we don't have a report back from Cobra in terms of whether it was successful or not. We're still waiting for that. I just got onto his website just before the show, and the alert upgrade to black is still there. Nothing new. Now, he did have a 24-hour delay. He couldn't post the notification for the need for a global mass meditation at the end of last week. That was delayed. And we got another website, the eventchronicles.com. That's been absolutely hacked to death, I would say. It's been hammered with hacks, all sorts of hacking issues. It hasn't been able to load, hasn't been able to get updated. And so it's all happening with regards to both the physical and non-physical attacks from both sides. The worldwide mass meditation that occurred Monday night in the US and Tuesday morning and afternoon for the rest of the world, that was part of our move. That was part of our say, our vote to counteract what was going on in Syria, counteract what the latest moves by the cabal. And we are hopeful to develop a big email list. And next time the the team does something like this, they may just get everybody to opt in. Everyone who responds to the Facebook posts and Facebook notifications, so that we can more directly communicate with everyone to really rally the troops and say no to this sort of, I was about to say garbage, but ultimately it's desperate attempts by the cabal and the Chimera to start World War III, distract the whole world, and cover themselves in all the chaos and survive just that extra week. So if you participated in this worldwide meditation, you'll know what I mean. The energies were intense. And although it seems unfortunate that we don't have a report by Cobra yet, it's important to be aware that the huge success that we had with the solar eclipse meditation on the 26th of February this year, that took days for the dust to settle on that one. And it took days for Cobra to provide a proper report. So we'll just have to be patient and calm and just wait for Cobra to get back and notify all of us on the exact results of this huge worldwide mass meditation. Now, when I say huge, I'm going on the feedback that we've had on Facebook. Huge amounts of engagements from the Facebook posts, huge amounts of likes, and quite a few shares, lots of shares. And the shares is what really gets to go viral. So it's going to be interesting, folks. Let's just wait and see. Hopefully, Cobra will have a report for us by tomorrow. And as some of you may know, he gets his, in terms of the nuts and bolts of what's actually happened, he gets his intel from directly from the Resistance, the positive off-world group from Planet X that operate from underground. He gets them directly from them, and so it's first-hand information, and they've generally been quite reliable in the past in terms of what's actually happened on both on the physical planes and non-physical planes. And if you were one of those light workers and light warriors that timed the global synchronized meditation with a clearing of the non-physical planes, then kudos to you. It's a very smart strategic move to do a mass clearing with your respective light beings at the same time as a global mass meditation. Even just 2 or 3 of us doing such a thing is a very wise move indeed. It does so much to clear the plasma plane in this case. Cobra informed me directly last June, that the etheric plane is almost completely cleared. We're quite certain that there's still some hidden Archon nests on the etheric plane, but their numbers are dwindling more and more. And that was occurring throughout the end of 2016 and early 2017. It's like I said, it's just mainly the Chimera and the plasma topper bombs that are left to go. They're the only thing that's really sort of in the way and holding things up. And Cobra was very explicit about that. The plasma topper bombs is the only thing that's standing in the way now. That's the only thing that's waiting to be completed in terms of clearing them on the plasma plane for us to be free. And the word free, I'm not using that term loosely. Most of humanity with, the level of consciousness that it's at, it will be free, but a limited kind of freedom. It's sort of like a rollout process, because they can't have their galactic family zip right down and embrace and go back up and rejuvenate, activate the DNA, have their own craft or ship, and have complete unconditional freedom, like us, like most awake and aware light workers. For the bulk of humanity, it's a gradual process of raising their consciousness about the truth, and they'll gradually receive the rollout of advanced technologies, and the youth, rejuvenation, immortality, all the technologies involved around that. But for us light workers, it'll be almost overnight after the event. We'll be able to reconnect with our galactic family, and it's off we go. We'll have access to all those resources. So there is a bit of a two-tier level of freedom. The awakened aware will get, indeed, unconditional freedom straight after the event. Now, we're going to move on to the importance of taking certain steps before actually activating your DNA. Okay. DNA has always been one of those hot, glamorous, sort of sexy buzzwords in the awake and aware world or scene. And, excuse me. And it's more than just a matter of activating your DNA as they are now. What you really need to do first is clear your DNA. Okay? And here's what I mean by that. If I can find the right page. Here we are. Okay. So, DNA. It's in two basic steps, clearing and then activating. You have to clear, undo, and heal all negative and disempowering codes, programs, genetic manipulation, and negative portals throughout all physical and non-physical DNA strands and their energetic templates. Okay, and I'll get into energetic templates in a minute. And any other form of blockages, no matter how hidden they may be, on all levels and bodies, as in your lower bodies, your plasma, astral, etheric, mental, emotional bodies. Okay, so for those of you that watch Cosmic Disclosure on Gaia.com, you would have heard Corey Good mentioned quite a few times that we're genetically coded to worship something outside of ourselves, okay, and to also fear, sort of in a very reactive, instantaneous way, fear Draco reptilians and draconians, even those that are incarnated in human form. I've had direct experience of that myself. And they've all got to go. You don't want to amp up the activation of that kind of stuff, believe me. They and there is, if you find the right practitioner, there is the right clearing protocols to follow to clear all of that. And one thing, we all want to return to our power, but if you return to your power with certain things like this that are unresolved, it magnifies your wounding, for example. It magnifies whatever's unresolved, whether it's a negative portal, whether it's an implant, whether it's a program, whether it's a simple belief, let alone soul level wounding and trauma. All that stuff needs to go before you're able to access your power. So the other thing that we have in our genes and DNA that you'll want to get rid of is the poverty gene. You'll certainly definitely want to get rid of that one. You'll want to get rid of, all the things that we've absorbed over lifetime after lifetime. And there's ways to do that. Okay. And I will give you a resource at the end of the show for those of you who are really feeling drawn to clearing all of this. So you clear all of that, all those disempowering codes, all those disempowering programs, genetic manipulation, portals, and so forth, and then you activate your DNA strands. But there is a thing called DNA templates, okay, that all but one practitioner talks about. Now, DNA templates, they, by the way, before I get into DNA templates, one thing that also needs to be cleared is false and disempowering imprints inherited from your parental and ancestral DNA. Okay, obviously, it's a bit hard to be your true self again at long last if you got that influencing the show in the background. Okay, those imprints definitely have to go. And like I said, there are protocols to do that. Okay, there's a way to do that. Now, DNA templates, they sort of they're within your DNA, and that's where they actually contain the programs, okay, scalar wave programs, create and form your etheric and physical DNA that come into form through the programs in your DNA templates, okay? So that's one good example of what needs to be cleared. The scalar wave programs within your DNA templates need to be cleared first. And there's just one more thing that needs to be done before they're activated, which I will get into in a minute. And to clarify on what scalar wave programs are, your thoughts are composed of scalar waves, scalar wave programs, okay? And so DNA templates have basically the same thing. Think of them as thoughts, if scalar wave programs is just difficult to grasp. Think of that being inside your scalar wave templates, okay? Thoughts or programs, okay? Now, they need to be cleared, but the next thing that needs to be done is from your own presence and all your high dimensional higher selves, you then have to download, okay, from your higher selves, the latest DNA template, codes, and empowering programs into your DNA template. And so you've cleared everything, right? Worshipping outside of yourself, poverty gene, poverty programs, the fear programs, okay? Fear anything outside of yourself. They need to be cleared. So you've cleared all that, and now you download from your own presence and higher selves the latest, most aligned programs into your DNA templates. And then from your DNA templates, you then, through a certain commands, you then bring forth and call that to form your DNA or reform your DNA or perhaps alter what's already there. It depends on your personal DNA and how that works. And at all levels and bodies, okay, in line with your higher self and your soul purpose at this time. So the programs that you would download into your DNA templates and then from there materialize as your DNA, actual DNA. All those programs are not just empowering, they also have to be in line with your soul purpose at this time. And many of you, obviously most of you on this call, will have long since had the calling of the calling of your soul purpose, and you understand that fully. We don't need to get into that, but it's just one of those things you have to keep in mind. It's all ultimately based on your soul purpose at this point in time, and what your higher self and I presence downloads to you will be based on that to serve your soul purpose, not so much on what your egoic conscious mind and personality thinks it needs or thinks it wants. Okay, so it's more to have that awareness. Now, so once you've done that, you then infuse, install, fully integrate, and begin running these downloaded updates. Okay, and it's very similar to the analogy of your computer. Whenever you download the latest Adobe Flash player, for example, that we periodically have to download, okay, or download any kind of software, you know the process. You're quite familiar with the process. You have to open up the program, all right? You have to open it up. You have to give permission, your free will choice, to let it make changes on your computer, okay, which is your bodies, down to your physical body. And then you have to click run to install it, okay, to install it into your computer, and in this case, into your DNA, and to replicate and make the changes that it makes throughout your body, throughout all your non-physical and physical bodies, okay? And then after that, sometimes, not all the time, we have to restart our browser or restart our computer. Well, our DNA activation equivalent of that is going to take a nap, feeling really tired all of a sudden and having to go to sleep, which can sometimes be as little as half an hour. But for the past few years, you've probably experienced this, where you're feeling tired and fatigued in the middle of the day, or exhausted when you get home from work, like you haven't been in previous years. Similar to that, and then after all that's done, you've downloaded, integrated, or installed, and infused these new programs into your DNA, and the DNA starts being altered through your DNA template, which is just downloaded all of this stuff. Okay, then you activate all your DNA strands, okay, at all levels and bodies. Okay, it's important to remember that one. The activation has to occur on the etheric body, the etheric DNA, on the plasma body, mental and emotional bodies. Okay, it's a multi-level sort of event. Okay. Now, and the other main thing to mention and explain about DNA activation is it's unlikely that you're going to have an experience where all your phenomenal, immense powers are going to be activated overnight. It has to be done incrementally, because every time you do a DNA activation, okay, it can only be up to the point, up to your highest current light quotient capacity. Okay, so how much? Because you absorb and embody more light, obviously, as you activate your DNA each time you activate that. And once you do with that activation, you can only hold so much, okay? And you reach that next level of light quotient or light holding capacity, okay? And that's in turn increases your overall frequency. For those of you who know, and for those of you who don't know or are not quite clear on this, each time you increase your frequency, okay, a certain next level or two of whatever unresolved issue, okay, whether it could be a negative, it could be as simple as a negative belief, it could be a soul level trauma from a past life or this life, it could be an implant or a program or whatever the case may be, or a portal, and the darkness around those things, okay? So each time you increase your frequency, the next level of that, whatever unresolved issue, it gets kicked up, okay, as a result of DNA activation. And that starts to come out. And, you know, it can wreak havoc with your emotions or your performance or the so-called world around you. Sometimes it does that. Sometimes it doesn't, just slip out and disappear. That starts to happen because the environment of being nice and comfortable inside your internal system and field, it becomes very toxic for it, very uncomfortable for it, because your frequency has just gone up from this DNA activation. Okay, so you need to also be on top of transmuting that, healing that, shutting that down, clearing it. Okay, and so use whatever practice that you've been taught or have learned and acquired over the years to make sure you do that, you know, fairly consistently. I mean, it's also the kind of thing that you have to do every single day, you know, nothing to be neurotic about, you know, just whenever it comes up. Once a week is fine, for example. And sensible, pragmatic measure, okay? Because it can cause issues and it can interfere with your continued progression with your DNA activation, okay? And I do understand and empathize with the fact that our egoic personality can get a little frustrated, you know, especially if one is in a not a good place right now. It is understandable that might sound a bit frustrating because we all want to get that freedom of power now, right? We want to make things happen now and just make whatever discomfort or dis-ease or pain that we're feeling or frustration that we're feeling with our life now, we want it just to totally disappear. Well, you can do that. And actually, if you do the right things, it can happen rather quickly. But it does take discipline and having the right level of awareness about utilizing your spiritual practice or your training or your light teams to clear consistently so that you can activate DNA consistently. Okay. Now, one thing that can also hold us back is simply consciousness. Now, it is true that activating DNA allows you to connect far more effectively with your high dimensional higher selves. Okay, and that is huge. It's critical. I can certainly recommend it. But you got to remember, there is this thing called your current incarnational sense of self. Okay, who you think you are. And that can get in the way as well because it's run by programs. It's run by a certain type of consciousness. And so be very open-minded to know that there's more. You are far more. That that strong recognition that your current name, your current face, your current body is not who you are, and to really get that at a deep level, okay? Because, like I said, this can hold back how much light you can accrete as well. So your current level of consciousness, in other words, or let's just say your current egoic or incarnational personality's consciousness, okay, that aspect, that consciousness, that particular incarnational personality consciousness has a certain frequency. It's not that high. And just be wary of that. That can sort of hold back. And like I said, the best way to resolve that is to be very open-minded, be very humble. For those of you that watch Cosmic Disclosure, you've heard, well, the sphere beings, the blue avians themselves, through Corey Good, say having humility at the egoic level, once again, at the egoic personality level, having humility is really critical, okay? And that doesn't mean not having a high regard for yourself and a strong, healthy self-esteem. It doesn't mean that, okay? It's something different. You can have all that. You can have a very strong sense and regard for yourself, especially your true self. But exercise and embody humility as well. That really opens you up to be able to receive more light, okay, higher light that comes streaming in after each DNA activation. So, very important stuff. Now, I did promise that I'm going to give you the resource to really get into this and investigate this further. The resource is simply our sponsor, and at returntoyourtruth.com. They've made all this possible, and once again, returntoyourtruth.com. Go read up on that. The website is a excellent healing and clearing and activation resource for you to take advantage of. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I've got 4 ones, quadruple ones, as I looked at the stream time left on Blog Talk Radio. Awesome. So, where was I? Okay. I do apologize for not having a guest on today. It really has been crazy with the non-physical attacks. It's been crazy with all the 3D work in organizing the global synchronized mass meditation. And, we just got overwhelmed with all that sort of stuff. There's energy clearing sessions that had to be done, and so forth. And that's a good example of what the Cabal achieved. Start a war, start all these attacks, so that humanity can't, get around to doing the business of arresting him and making the events happen. And we're not going to let that happen, not at all. So, please accept my apologies for not being able to make that happen. Now, one thing I will notify you of is there is a brilliant Chinese physicist. Okay, he's also a spiritualist as well. He's a master Qigong meditator or exerciser. I'm not sure if it qualifies as much of a meditation, but certainly a very powerful form of energy work that started to gain popularity here in the US and Australia, and much of the West for that matter, back in the about 10 years ago now. And Qigong, you've probably heard of it. And he does that, but it's also a highly talented physicist, and what this guy has done is he's invented something called the Qi machine. Okay, basically it's a mechanical gizmo, a physical mechanical gizmo that you fix it onto, you put an adhesive onto it, and I have tried it myself, by the way, and you place it on whatever part of your body is causing you trouble. Okay, and if you just want to activate your psychic senses and third eye, for example, you can place it on your forehead, and it corrals and basically pushes out negative chi out of your system. Okay, and I felt it physically when I did this, and it corrals it out, transmutes it out, pushes it out, and obviously fills your system with positive chi. So you've got this positive chi running through you now. And I tried this on my forehead, and I had it on for a good hour. And there's a dial that you turn for level of intensity, okay, because it is kind of intense. And if you put it at the right dial, at the right level of intensity with a dial, you really feel the chi, the negative chi being pushed out, and your positive chi coming in, and it hurts. It literally you start to feel discomfort. It does sort of hurt if you turn the dial over too much. You have to put it back again. If you're not too clear and got too much negative chi, you can barely put the dial on halfway because it becomes too uncomfortable and then painful. Which, from my perspective, was good in one way because that's how you know this is real. Okay, and the rational mind wants to know that this is real, and that's one way of physically experiencing the realness of this chi machine. And had it on for an hour, and at the end of the hour, he explained to me that really the positive chi and negative chi was only able to be pushed in by about an inch, my forehead, the surface of my forehead, and that was quite profound. That made quite a lasting impression on me, as you can imagine. So we may have him on next Wednesday night, and he'll explain how this actually works. He's won numerous awards, physics awards, and he's actually Taiwanese, but Chinese. It's mostly Chinese that live in Taiwan. So he's actually from Taiwan, and quite a talent as a physicist. So we're going to have him on. It'll be quite an interesting show. Now, we are going to use an interpreter, just be warned. So I'm going to be very short and to the point and succinct with my questions. You will have an interpreter, and I'm quite excited about that. If you haven't employed or added Ivan Anderson's radionics, as well as a tachyon chamber, tachyon particles, to your toolbox, please do so. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, then just go back to our last 2 episodes that you won't want to miss out on. They're on blogtalkradio.com/ground crew command. You'll see our past episodes just further down the page. blogtalkradio.com/ground crew command radio. That's where you'll find our past episodes. So definitely check them out because radionics, it's a must. Having Ivan beam you with his monthly service, keeping you clear of all sorts of nasty physical and non-physical things, so that you can be at a much higher level of performance and more energy and so forth. He has a fairly affordable service, and you can ask him to boom you monthly at a very affordable rate. Go check out the details on that show. It was our first show 2 weeks ago. Once again, on our blogtalk.com radio page, it's blogtalkradio.com/ground crew command radio. And the week after that, last week, we had Dr. Joseph McNamara giving us the truth about tachyon particles and the amazing healing and clearing benefits of tachyon particles. If you can get to a tachyon chamber, do so, but never fear if you can't. If there's not one in your city, it's no problem. Because, not just because of the power of radionics with Ivan Anderson and other things that we're going to have on our show in the coming weeks, but also because of the power of your consciousness. And I'm not kidding, it might sound just a lofty, feel-good kind of thing, but I'm being quite serious. Remember this quote, or this statement: consciousness is king. Okay, and we are entering the whole planet, and this is something that Jim Self has gone on about for years now. We are entering a higher, let's say a higher frequency, a higher planetary frequency, a higher planetary realm. Some call it the 4D, some call it the 5D, where your thoughts and your consciousness has more of a say, has more of an impact in a shorter time, which is why it's so critical to generally focus on what you want as much as you can. Okay, and with your consciousness, i.e. visualization, i.e. commands, protocols, i.e. your intent and exercising your free will choice, that's still king. Okay, that should always be your number one tool, your number one piece of equipment or gizmo to utilize. Okay, what you focus on, you connect with energetically. You've heard that 1,000 times before. We've all heard that scientific experiment where scientists look through a quantum, I believe it's a quantum computer quantum microscope of some sort to look at the quantum particles, and the quantum particles would change based on what each scientist was expecting to see. Many of you have probably heard this story before, but we need that reminder. I certainly always used to need that reminder. The famous experiment by I can't remember his first name, the Japanese scientist Emoto, where he had water in a bottle, froze it, sent certain thoughts into it, and the crystals, that physical crystals that would develop, ice crystals that would develop based on what thought he had, would materialize. So, and remember, your thoughts are composed of scalar wave programs, and those scalar wave programs, in combination with visualization and your own commands, with the right personal command protocol, that's the number one tool of them all, and you can apply that. And so your thoughts, consisting of scalar wave programs, that's what forms whatever you're focusing on. And especially with things like etheric DNA and programs, non-physical programs that are in your etheric brain, that are in your etheric DNA, the DNA templates. Okay, your thoughts heavily influence those programs, and with the right protocols and commands, you'd be surprised at what you can do. Okay, keep all this in mind, very important. So that's my very long-winded way of saying, don't worry. If if you can't get to a take-on chamber, you know, or anything like that. Because one mistake that many of us make is we come across a fantastic tool, a gizmo of some sort, and we fall in love with it, and we expect it's going to do everything for us. Now, granted, you know, it does help. Yes, it helps. Just like any tool in your toolbox, it does help. But as amazing as something is, it doesn't do everything for you. It's not going to do everything for you, because your higher self and your level of consciousness and your consciousness itself is the overriding factor on pretty much everything, on how much power you get to reactivate and access. Okay? Very important to understand that and to really grasp that and get that. So don't fall in love with any gizmos. Keep it in perspective. Use it as a tool. It's nothing more than a tool to help you on your path to regaining the full power of your consciousness. Okay. My honest and personal recommendation is, other than what I've just been saying, is to use a combination. External tools and gizmos, whatever it may be, and your consciousness. What you visualize, what you command. So, very important stuff. Very important principles to, I don't like to use the words abide by. Let's just say keep in mind. You know, and I can say work by. You know. Now, in closing tonight's show, and in keeping with the format of clarity, power, and empowerment, we're going to finish off tonight's show with an empowering exercise, as always. Now, last week we did sealing your auric membrane, and the week before that, the first episode, we showed you how to transmute any kind of negative influence, whether it's a thought form or an entity. We've shown you how to transmute. And so go back to those shows if you missed out on those shows. Now, for this week's episode, we're going to focus on a simple but very powerful pineal gland activation. Okay. Now, the pineal gland, don't be fooled by its size. When it starts to activate incrementally, stage by stage, just like with your DNA, okay, that accretes and projects a huge amount of light. Okay. So it's not going to activate all at once, like your DNA. It's not going to activate all at once, which is going to immediately kick up every single unresolved internal issue down to your soul level all at once, and that's going to overwhelm you. Even just a few weeks of weekly activation, let alone daily activation on your pineal gland, it really does make a difference. You can start to see a lot easier, you know, psychically see a lot easier. So we're going to do that now to close tonight's episode. And so, assuming that you're not driving or doing something like that, take a seat, take a couple of deep breaths while I do the same, and have a drink of water. Okay. Now, see yourself, see your head. Okay, just imagine seeing your head. You can have a white background if you want to make it easier for you. And now we're going to connect with our higher selves. So just repeat after me. Authentic higher self. I call upon my one true authentic higher self. Connect with me now. Authentic higher self, connect with me now. authentic higher self. Repeat after me again. Authentic higher self, take me to my pineal gland. And once you've said that, just allow yourself to zoom into your head and go right between your ears, but just above your ears, just above the tops of your earlobes. Okay? And just visualize, and I'll use the term almost imagine, your pineal gland there. Okay? It's in a pine cone kind of a shape with two stems coming out of it, sort of back towards your eyes. And you just visualize it in whatever way works for you, whatever comes to your mind. No need to, this is not the kind of thing to be pedantic about. In fact, the less you try, the easier it is. Okay, just relax so that you allow the psychic flow. Now, almost imagine or visualize through your consciousness and the scalar wave programs of your thoughts. In other words, what you visualize. Visualize an electric blue beam of light going crossways. So from one ear to from the outside of one ear through to the other and outside of your head, okay, and going through your pineal gland, crossways. So from just above one ear, see this electric blue beam of light coming through that spot, through your pineal gland and out the other ear, or out that area that's just above the other ear, okay? Barely half an inch above your ears. So see that, and now see another electric blue beam of light coming basically through your third eye, through your forehead and through your pineal gland, and the other beam of light, and through the back of your head. And just visualize that, those two beams of electric blue light. If it works for you, visualize, seeing your ear, one of your ear, from one side of your head. And that crossways beam of light, electric blue light, entering maybe a quarter or maybe half an inch above your earlobe. Try that on precise just to give your rational mind a reference point. And now what we're going to do is we're going to bring one more and one last electric blue beam of light from your crown, from above your head and down, okay, down into your spine. So it's vertical. And that intersecting point of those three beams of electric blue light, keep on imagining your pineal gland there, okay? And this only needs to be done for 10 minutes. Actually, even 7 minutes is enough. Now you can do it for 15 minutes if you're guided to. It depends on, again, your personal journey, where you're at, how clear you are, how activated you are, and so forth. Now, some of you may start to feel a physical sensation, sort of between your ears, a little bit above. There you go. And another way to explain where your pineal gland is, if you put the width of your finger on top of your earlobe, okay, based on the other side of your finger, the other end width point of your finger in terms of height above your earlobe, that's the level that your pineal gland is at, okay? So that might help you with the visualization. So some of you may get a physical sensation in that center point in your head where your pineal gland is. And if you're struggling or having trouble for whatever reason, ask your higher self for help. Say to your higher self, please help me with this. And if for whatever reason not a whole lot changes, remember to relax, okay? And sort of detach in a way. Be relaxed and detached about this. It does allow for the psychic flow. If you're not relaxed or have a lot of attachment or desperate for this sort of thing to work, that can block the psychic flow many times. Either way, you can also ask your higher self and your I Am Presence, please put me onto the resource, put me onto the training or the practitioner or the right steps that could be in simple text form that you might randomly come across on a web page somewhere tomorrow. Ask your I Am Presence higher self to put me onto the resource of whatever kind so I can do this, so I can visualize it easily, so I can make exercises like this work easily, so that I can activate my pineal gland, activate my DNA, heal my soul, retrieve all those soul fragments, and so forth. You know, it's important to, be regularly communicate to your I Am Presence and higher self. And they do help when they see you trying to do the same thing. And then from there, you just follow your guidance and check things out that you're finding curious, that you're curious or to find out about or being drawn to. That's your I Am Presence and higher self guiding you. Curiosity and feeling drawn. So play with this exercise, okay? And feel free to keep on focusing on it for another 5 or 10 minutes. And as far as resources are concerned, I can recommend returntoyourtruth.com. I can recommend DNAperfection.com is another great one. So do whatever you need to do. Access whatever resources you may need to access that you're curious about or drawn to. That's your higher self talking to you. Okay, and follow that guidance. You may not feel drawn to do anything, at least not for tonight. Okay. But careful with life's distractions. That's the only thing I'll finish off with. You can be very careful with life's distractions. It's quite often darkness behind that. Okay, so keep that in mind. And I hope you got a lot out of this simple exercise. Just stick with it for another 5 minutes, if you can, while I bid you farewell for this week's episode. And stay strong, stay focused on what you want. And to give you a sense that I'm not just talking feel-good BS when I say stay focused on what you want, because we can't always do that, I want to give you a 3D practical tool to be able to primarily stay focused on what you want. And this 3D tool is in the form of the 80-20 rule, okay? The universal 80-20 rule, which you've probably heard of. And that is to stay focused on what you want in a relaxed, unattached, loose kind of way, 80% of the time, and 20% of the time, focus on whatever challenge that you need to transmute. Okay? Whatever challenge you need to resolve, only focus on that 20% of the time. Because if you don't give it the light of your consciousness, it grows more toxic and more damaging. And that's a good rule to follow. Try that tool on. So on that note, farewell for this week. Stay strong once again. Follow the 80-20 rule. Play with this exercise. It's actually quite a powerful exercise and tool in all seriousness. So make the most of it. Okay. And I will see you next week.